Before dawn broke over London, the machinery of the monarchy was already in motion. On January 31st, 2026, at exactly 7:46 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, Buckingham Palace released a high-priority bulletin bearing the crimson crest of the crown. Its tone was sharp, deliberate, and stripped of ceremony. The message left no room for interpretation. The institution would no longer absorb the personal fallout of individuals who no longer align with its standards or discipline. At the heart of the bulletin was a declaration framed not as punishment, but as obligation. The well-being of Master Archie and Miss Lilibet Diana was described as a matter of institutional responsibility and national dignity. Palace language emphasised continuity, protection, and stability. For the first time since the Sussexes' departure in 2020, the Royal Institution issued a statement that directly addressed Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, referencing reported marital strain, Harry's alleged divorce considerations, and most significantly the future framework surrounding their children. This was not symbolic posturing, it was a strategic response. According to Palace sources, urgency was triggered by Meghan Markle's January 24th trip to Dubai, described internally as unsanctioned and misaligned with a private legal understanding reached in mid-2025. That understanding, insiders say, set firm boundaries on the use of royal association abroad, especially involving commercial contexts and references to the children. The agreement reportedly restricted the use of royal titles, imagery, or implied succession narratives in any foreign commercial environment. Palace officials now claim those terms were disregarded. In their words, the understanding was voided through private gain. International media photographs published days later showed Meghan attending a royal women's empowerment event at the Burj Al Arab, styled in jewels previously gifted to the crown. Attendees reported she was introduced as the mother of the next generation of royal changemakers, language that immediately raised alarms within palace legal circles. Prince Harry was not present at the event. More concerning to palace advisors, neither Archie nor Lilibet were present. Sources indicate the children remained in Los Angeles under temporary caregiving arrangements shortly after two long-serving staff members were allegedly dismissed following a financial disagreement. A source close to Princess Anne, speaking anonymously, summarized the concern with blunt clarity. Activating royal branding overseas without security coordination, without the children, and without Harry isn't empowerment. It creates exposure. Within hours of the Dubai footage circulating online, Princess Anne and the Duchess of Edinburgh reportedly travelled to Sandringham for a closed-door meeting with King Charles. A senior courtier described the environment as focused, procedural, and unsentimental. Anne, often described internally as the monarchy's moral enforcer, reportedly presented a detailed dossier outlining what were characterised as repeated branding conflicts over the previous 6 months. These alleged incidents included promotional material referencing the Duchess of Sussex title in commercial contexts, exploratory sponsorship discussions with a Gulf-based luxury consortium that referenced Lilibet Diana as a multi-generational symbol of Windsor continuity, and travel documentation listing Meghan as HRH, Duchess Meghan Markle, Windsor. Palace officials viewed this not as a single misstep, but as a sustained pattern requiring correction. The response escalated quickly. A 3-part internal directive was drafted and fast-tracked for legal evaluation. First, a provisional suspension of hereditary considerations for Archie and Lilibet pending further review. Second, the formal revocation of the 2021 title usage memorandum, rendering foreign commercial use of Sussex titles invalid in any official capacity. Third, the creation of a custodial oversight council composed of senior royals and child welfare experts tasked with assessing long-term stability, education pathways, and residency consistency. Concerns raised extended beyond branding disputes. A former royal nanny who previously served during Queen Elizabeth II's reign reportedly expressed concern regarding Archie's response to frequent relocation and public attention. These observations referenced repeated short-term moves between Montecito, Vancouver, and Malibu since 2022, described as disruptive rather than structured. Meanwhile, Lilibet, now 4, was reportedly overheard at a playgroup referring to herself as Princess of America. Insiders noted the phrasing echoed language used in a social media clip previously shared by Meghan and later removed following public criticism. Palace sources emphasized that the concern was not the child's words, but the messaging environment shaping them. One individual close to Lady Louise Windsor framed the situation starkly. The real issue isn't the breakdown of the marriage, it's that the children may not have a stable reference point for home. That concern intensified as attention turned toward Prince Harry's current circumstances. Any expectation that Harry might intervene decisively appeared to fade. Palace officials confirmed King Charles had attempted private contact with his son on 3 occasions within 2 weeks without response. Instead, Harry was described as moving between properties in California and Nevada. Photographs dated January 28th showed him alone in Las Vegas at a private security summit hosted by a former Invictus donor, declining to answer questions regarding Meghan or the children. In private discussions, King Charles reportedly referred to his youngest son as emotionally unreachable. Prince William, according to multiple briefings, warned that continued disengagement could lead to formal consequences tied to inheritance and standing. The situation prompted the drafting of what insiders labelled the Lilibet Protocol, a proposed framework addressing royal children caught between institutional duty and modern commercial exposure. Early drafts emphasised UK-based custodial preference for royal heirs under 16, mandatory security reviews for any foreign commercial engagements involving minors, and strict controls on media imagery linked to royal identifiers. Princess Catherine, sources say, quietly offered access to tutoring resources and emotional support should the children return to British care. As senior royals gathered behind closed doors in Sandringham's East Wing, the focus narrowed. According to insiders, one question altered the tone entirely. Prince William reportedly asked, "Where are Archie and Lilibet tonight?" The pause that followed, aides say, carried more weight than any briefing. Internal reviews suggested the children's daily lives had become fragmented, tutors rotating on short schedules, caregiving arrangements changing frequently, no unified educational roadmap confirmed across jurisdictions. Staff reports from the R. Rock estate raised concerns about reliance on short-term caregivers during periods when both parents were travelling for projects. A former court advisor summarised the issue without embellishment. "These children have lineage, but no continuity." When Meghan travelled to Dubai under the banner of charitable diplomacy, palace investigators later confirmed neither child accompanied her. One official assessment stated plainly, the trip served branding objectives, not family or educational needs. Royal paediatric consultants reportedly raised concerns that Lilibet had not been enrolled in a verified developmental programme since late 2025. No accusations were levelled, but the absence of documented structure prompted internal review. One aide remarked quietly, "Routine matters more than reputation." Legal counsel for the Crown addressed Prince Harry's role directly. In a briefing memo, advisers stated that emotional difficulty does not absolve parental duty. Princess Catherine was reportedly firm during a private exchange, stating that compassion cannot replace protection. This consensus led to the activation of the Custodial Sovereignty Clause, an emergency provision allowing the Crown to seek partial guardianship oversight when royal minors are deemed to be living in prolonged instability. The clause had not been invoked since 1936, when similar family disruption prompted Queen Mary's temporary intervention. Under this provision, a petition has reportedly been filed with the High Court of Justice in London seeking structured contact arrangements, educational monitoring, and residency planning for Archie and Lilibet. If approved, the Crown would gain limited custodial influence focused solely on welfare and stability, regardless of geographic location. Queen Camilla reportedly expressed hesitation, stating concerns about public perception. Princess Anne's response, now widely quoted within palace circles, reportedly ended the discussion. "This is not removal. It is restoration." Lord Pembroke, a senior legal architect within the royal household, summarised the position succinctly. "Children cannot be raised in the shadow of contracts and headlines. They need structure, not exposure, stability, not sponsorships. A comprehensive dossier covering health records, education planning, residency logistics, and citizenship considerations has now been submitted to the Home Secretary. Lady Sarah Chatto has been appointed to oversee a potential reintegration process, prioritising calm transition over public narrative. Prince Edward and the Duchess of Edinburgh have also offered support as interim UK-based sponsors should relocation be approved. Meghan Markle has not issued a public response. Her legal team, when asked about the proceedings, released a single statement that remains unchanged and on record. The Duchess will address these allegations when necessary. The era of quiet restraint inside the royal family has officially ended. Archie and Lilibet, born into a centuries-old crown, yet raised amid disorder and uncertainty, have now become the focal point of a reckoning that can no longer be postponed. At exactly 9:30 a.m. on January 29, 2026, a confidential memorandum circulated through the Privy Council chambers, stamped with a classification reserved for only the most sensitive matters, for the sovereign circle only. The subject line was stark and unsettling in its simplicity: welfare of Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, emergency review. What followed was not a discussion draft or advisory memo, but a comprehensive institutional roadmap that insiders say could permanently reshape the Windsor family structure. The catalyst was a leaked internal assessment compiled by the Department for Education and Child Welfare in coordination with royal observers and discreet international child development specialists. The findings raised immediate alarm. Irregular schooling arrangements for Archie, ongoing identity confusion linked to dual branding narratives, emotional withdrawal markers observed in Lilibet. Palace insiders stressed this was not a media hit job, but a safeguarding notice that had crossed from private concern into institutional liability, with implications no longer limited to California. This was no longer about public image management or Sussex reputation control. This was about children, royal children, being pulled into cycles of exposure, messaging, and leverage far beyond their years. During a closed-door session, Princess Anne reportedly stated with clarity, "They are Windsor children." The line was repeated verbatim by senior aides afterward, and the Windsors will not watch children be shaped into marketing tools. That statement became the rallying point for what was internally designated Operation Custodial Guard, a coordinated initiative launched quietly from London. Prince William assumed leadership almost immediately, working alongside Kensington Palace's Director of Legal Affairs to draft a firm position statement. His words were unambiguous. No child of royal blood will be raised where their legacy is traded for subscriptions or exposure. Not on my watch, not as a father, not as a future king. The declaration followed disturbing disclosures that Meghan's private media firm had explored a docuseries tentatively titled Archie and Lily, California Royals. Internal pitch materials reportedly framed the children as modern heirs navigating a broken royal lineage. Netflix ultimately declined the proposal after the earlier Sussex disputes, but not before presentation decks reached royal informants. Palace officials concluded the intent was clear: the construction of a second-generation Sussex brand, allegedly without institutional consent and without Harry's direct involvement. As London absorbed that revelation, a parallel development surfaced overseas. On January 27th, Meghan was photographed attending a high-profile gala in Dubai, hosted by the CEO of a luxury technology conglomerate. Middle Eastern intelligence-linked observers later noted she was privately promoting a global Mother of Peace initiative, positioning herself and potentially her children as international ambassadors. Security protocols at the event were described as unusually relaxed, raising further concerns. There was no public acknowledgement of Archie and Lilibet's father, no visible royal authorization. Most concerning to palace officials were unverified, but persistent rumours of exploratory discussions regarding alternative citizenship frameworks for the children, allegedly pursued through private counsel. Prince Edward's response was swift and calculated. A formal petition was filed with the UK Children's Commissioner, requesting a cross-border guardianship review. "This is not about removing children from their mother," Edward clarified in briefing notes. "It is about grounding them in truth, continuity, and heritage, all of which are currently unstable." Behind palace walls, Queen Camilla reportedly dismissed the initiative with sarcasm. suggesting emotional overreaction. Her remark only further isolated her from the core decision-makers now aligned in consensus: Charles, William, Anne, Edward, and Sophie. King Charles delivered his position the following day during a scheduled visit to the Royal Archives. Speaking quietly but deliberately, he stated, "When one parent lives by principle and another by platform, children become hostages of identity." The message landed heavily within institutional circles. The Crown would not permit identity hostage-taking to continue. While critics labelled the stance outdated moralism, within royal governance it marked a boundary drawn in gold. DNA records, name registrations, and title designations entered formal review under the newly activated Succession Clarity Protocol, overseen by Lord Pembroke. The scope included scrutiny of past narrative framing surrounding the children's births, naming conventions, and media usage. A forensic audit of all commercial media featuring the children was initiated. Simultaneously, negotiations began around a long-term custodial framework. One proposal, advanced by Lady Louise Windsor and supported by the Duchess of Edinburgh, outlined a dual-country educational structure anchored in Crown-approved institutions, mandatory annual UK residence periods, and a complete digital moratorium on child-related branding. The plan was diplomatically phrased, but its implication was unmistakable. Prince Harry would be required to choose. While the children remained physically in California, institutionally, the tide had shifted. The Crown had drawn its line. The children would not be absorbed into commercial ambition. Among senior aides, a phrase began circulating quietly: the children must be freed, not from their parents, but from the disorder their parents created. By February 2nd, 2026, at Sandringham, urgency intensified. While Meghan was reportedly socialising within Dubai's elite circles amid whispers of a lifestyle brand relaunch, pressure built relentlessly inside Windsor. What began as concern escalated into confrontation when new intelligence reached Princess Anne. The material reportedly included surveillance imagery and financial records alleging Meghan hosted a private gathering at Dubai's Royal Alima Resort, with controversial financiers present. The absence of the children was again noted. That omission hardened resolve. Lady Louise Windsor broke protocol by privately briefing Princess Catherine and Prince Edward. She disclosed observations from a brief California visit that deeply unsettled her. Caregivers rotating every few days. Lilibet encouraged to adjust speech patterns for media appeal. Archie left in loosely supervised environments with influencer-adjacent figures. "It wasn't neglect," she reportedly said. "It was design." Back in London, King Charles convened an emergency family council. Queen Camilla was notably excluded. William arrived carrying a black file labelled Custodial Protections, H.R.H. Archie and H.R.H. Lilibet. Sophie spoke next, her voice steady but resolute. "This is not parenting, it is branding." Silence followed. After hours of discussion, Charles finally spoke. His words sent shockwaves through the room. If the mother has chosen Dubai and the father has chosen silence, then the Crown will choose guardianship. Within hours, Lord Pembroke filed a sealed inquiry, invoking the Legacy Protection Clause, a provision last used during the abdication crisis of 1936. As legal wheels turned, palace officials quietly contacted Meghan's security team in Dubai. One bodyguard, operating under immunity, provided audio evidence. The recording allegedly captured Meghan dismissing royal concerns and issuing a provocative remark referencing public backlash comparisons. The tone reportedly shifted everything. Prince William, usually measured, reportedly lost composure. He ordered immediate suspension of all duchy-linked financial flows to Meghan-associated trusts. "She's not just defiant," he was quoted saying. "She's destabilising." At Kensington Palace, Catherine reviewed documentation related to Lilibet's birth records. Long-standing questions resurfaced, and this time were escalated directly to the Ministry of Home Affairs. As tabloids erupted, one image cut through the noise. Lady Louise walking Lilibet through Windsor Gardens, hand in hand. The child wore a blue coat once worn by Princess Charlotte years earlier, a quiet but powerful signal of continuity. A senior palace source later confirmed plans were underway to grant interim co-guardianship roles to Lady Louise and the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh should conditions worsen. And worsen they did. In Montecito, Prince Harry was finally confronted with reality. One choice remained: defend Meghan or defend the children. For the first time in years, the silence finally cracked. Prince Harry requested a direct conversation with his brother, not through aides, not through lawyers, but man to man. The call, conducted under royal monitoring protocol, lasted exactly 12 minutes. Halfway through, Harry's voice reportedly faltered. The phrase he repeated again and again stunned those listening in. "I didn't know, I wasn't allowed to know." But by then, the damage had already been done. At precisely 6:30 p.m. on January 27, 2026, a second closed-door meeting convened at Windsor Castle. This gathering was different. The agenda was no longer Meghan's Dubai fallout or Harry's public unravelling. This meeting centred on two names written in ink, not headlines: Archie, Lilibet, their future, their protection, and the legacy they never chose. The room was quieter than anyone expected. Only 5 chairs were occupied around the round mahogany table. King Charles III, Princess Anne, Prince William, Princess Catherine, and the Lord Chamberlain. Before them lay a sealed legal dossier marked Custodial Options, S 2026. No one reached for it at first. This was no longer a discussion about optics. It was about irreversible decisions. Princess Anne broke the silence. Her voice was steady, final, stripped of sentiment. "We must plan for the next 50 years, she said. "Not the next 5 headlines." Then came the line that settled the room. "The Sussex experiment has failed. The children need identities beyond scandal." No one argued. Her proposal, later whispered about as the Anne Doctrine, was unapologetically pragmatic. Archie and Lilibet would be offered private legal guardianship under a royal trust, ensuring education, security, and the option to re-enter public royal life only if they chose to do so at adulthood. Meghan Markle would be legally and symbolically removed from all royal decision-making related to their development. No joint branding, no public media narratives, no emotional leverage tied to Diana's legacy. Prince Harry's role would be conditional, subject to psychiatric review and legal evaluation. Following finalised divorce proceedings, the Crown would invoke international custodial mechanisms, including the 1996 Hague Convention on Parental Responsibility, to enforce protections across borders. Anne's reasoning was stark. "We are not protecting Harry. We are not protecting Meghan. We are protecting the monarchy's last moral claim to the next generation." The room did not flinch. Princess Catherine, however, had already been working quietly behind the scenes. Over the previous 3 weeks, she had consulted child development psychologists, a former UN children's rights envoy, and a trauma specialist based in Geneva. Her approach wasn't punitive, it was restorative. "We cannot undo what has already happened," she reportedly told the group. "But we can give them one thing they have never truly had: stability." Catherine proposed a separate, sealed trust fund devoted exclusively to the children's emotional health, identity counselling, and transitional education. The fund would be legally isolated from royal assets and Sussex finances alike. She also proposed something deeply personal: a private letter written by Princess Diana, retrieved from the Kensington archives. One letter for Archie to open at 18, one for Lilibet on her 16th birthday. Not for public release, not for legacy marketing, just for them. Annual heritage retreats were also proposed. Balmoral, Sandringham. No cameras, no press, just quiet reconnection at their own pace. Catherine's plan struck a powerful chord, not only within the room, but across the country. A flash poll commissioned by The Times revealed that over 78% of respondents supported Archie and Lilibet returning to the UK under firm guidance from the Wales family. One palace aide summarised the sentiment bluntly: "She's not punishing Meghan. She's rescuing the children from Meghan's version of them." Meghan's response came swiftly. Within 24 hours of the first leaks, her team activated a book proposal tentatively titled "The Crown Behind the Crib." The pitch framed her as a mother battling an institution to protect her children. Legal notices followed, warning the Crown that any unilateral action could be framed as unlawful under California statutes. But Palace Council countered just as fast. Meghan had signed post-nuptial clauses in 2022 tied to trust restructuring agreements that limited her parental leverage in exchange for commercial privileges. Her own signature, one advisor noted, may undo her. Back in Montecito, the emotional fallout intensified. Friends reported Harry shattered a framed family photo while sobbing in his study. "I never meant to choose her over them," he cried. "Over Mum's legacy." He paced barefoot through the garden at dawn, calling his former military therapist. At last, William replied with a single message. "You're still their father, but only if you act like one. Now." As of January 29th, no custody petition had been filed by Harry, but palace sources confirm a final offer had been extended. Return to London independently, step away from Meghan, enter a restorative framework overseen by Anne and Catherine. It was, by all accounts, his final opportunity. Meanwhile, Archie and Lilibet remained in California, homeschooled, reduced security coverage due to funding constraints, isolated from cousins they hadn't seen in nearly a year. Then, on January 30th, a quiet image surfaced. Lilibet holding a corgi plush toy with a handwritten tag reading, "From Granny Diana's garden." The gift traced back to Kensington Palace. No statement followed. As the month closed, the palace released its final declaration. Short, absolute, unmistakable. In the interest of national dignity and in fulfillment of the Crown's duty to future generations, all institutional ties to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are permanently severed. The safety, education and moral development of Master Archie Harrison and Miss Lilibet Diana will be overseen by a guardian of royal succession appointed by the sovereign. That guardian was Princess Catherine. The decision was not vengeance. It was necessity. Meghan's Dubai trip, alleged private negotiations and repeated absences during critical moments proved decisive. A confidential audit later revealed that millions intended for the children's well-being had been diverted toward legal retainers, travel, and crisis management. Harry was offered one final compromise: relinquish commercial ambitions, accept joint custody under Crown supervision. He declined. Princess Anne's final words to him were unambiguous. The monarchy can survive scandal. It cannot survive the abandonment of children. As for Meghan, the fallout accelerated. Media scrutiny intensified. Corporate partnerships froze. Compliance reviews mounted. One by one, platforms went quiet. And then came the image that defined the end of this chapter. Princess Sophie at a children's education charity, gently holding Lilibet's hand. Catherine beside her. No speeches, no statements. Just presence. Behind the scenes, the Privy Council approved a new custodial framework. Archie and Lilibet would remain under Crown care in the UK, their future funded through a trust managed by Anne and Catherine. No branding, no bargaining, just childhood. For Harry and Meghan, the gates had closed. For the monarchy, the line was drawn. Since 1936, appeasement had ruled. Now, survival had taken its place. Two children, no longer pawns, had finally come home. If you want more deep dives like this, make sure to like the video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.